Hello, thank you for joining me. Let's get you a little bit closer. Let's get up close and personal, shall we? Let me just adjust this. Oh, bloody hell. There we go. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. Please like, subscribe and share. Do all of that. Not that I care, don't give a fuck. Oh, hang on. I'm trying not to swear. I'm trying to get through the rest of this video without swearing. Let's see if I can fucking manage it. Let's talk about time. Time's an interesting concept. It doesn't work in the way that most people think it does. It's not linear. All events at time happen simultaneously and have already happened. I'll go into this later. But to highlight it, let me discuss a story from my youth to highlight and explain what I'm about to detail. So I've always been an aberrant child and slightly weird and didn't mix with the other kids. Well, I'd mix with the other kids, but I was always a follower on. I never really instigated the games, I'd just join in. And I would always return home late. I was a 70s kid and we weren't really allowed in the house during the day because we'd cause mayhem. We were kicked out in the morning and expected to return home at night. My parents both worked, so in the summer holidays, me and my brother would be kicked out. My brother was allowed a key. It was hung around his neck on a piece of string. But because he was 2 years older than me and I was his annoying little brother, he would lose me quite quickly. So I had no access to the home. He did, nominally. I would just disappear on my own. I was enchanted by the world, so I wasn't bothered. I'd just go off following butterflies and, hedgehogs. And I'd just follow them and see where they lived, or rabbits, or whatever. I was just a very weird kid, still am. Anyway, eventually my parents got sick of me disappearing and having to go out finding me because I didn't come home. And they said, right, we've got to put a watch on this kid. And they bought me a Timex leather banded watch, which had Mickey Mouse on it. And the hands were his hands. One was the second hand, one was the minute hand, one was the hour hand, but it also had a tick-tock red hand for seconds. And so it was my birthday, I was 6, 7, and they took me to a department store. Now, in days like that, going to make a purchase for something that wasn't strictly necessary was a bit of an occasion, so the whole family got dressed up. We went into Coventry City Centre to a large department store, and they found me this watch and they said, right, this is your birthday present. Now, I didn't really care about material things then, no more than I do now, and I don't really understand why I needed a watch, but clearly the parents did. So they bought me this Timex watch, which would have been quite expensive at the time. It would have been, for our family, we were very, very poor, it would have been a sizable expense, but they were like tagging me and, saving themselves a lot of time trying to find the aberrant little child. So they borrowed me this watch and they put it on me. We get home, put it on me. My dad sets it, he winds it up. It was a windy watch, and it stops. It doesn't work. So next week, me and my mum, my dad was busy that time and it wasn't such a family occasion. We went back to the department store and said, this watch doesn't work. It had a guarantee. They said, no problem, doesn't appear to work, here's another watch. And we repeated this for 6 or 7 weeks. Every week we'd go back, they'd give us another watch, they'd put it on me, it stopped working. And eventually the shop went back and my mum would say, look, it doesn't work. And they'd say, well, we don't know what's going on here, here's your money back. And they gave me money back. And that meant I didn't get a watch. So I still went missing and I was found sleeping behind doors and in random places. Just a weird kid who never came home. I always came home eventually, but just had no concept of time and have never worked in that space. I've never worn a watch since. I've tried a couple of times, but they just stop. Same with computers, same with printers, same with phones. cars, washing machines. I touch them, they're dead forever. So much so that in my family it's become a thing that don't let Cole put the dishwasher on. Don't let Cole touch the washing machine. Don't let Cole go near anything electronic because it will never work again. And this is, you can ask my family, this is proof. But just recently things have changed. My world's changed. So I bought myself a watch. This is the first time I've worn a watch since I was 7 because it works. I went to Japan. I thought, right, if I'm going to try this watch thing, because I want to get rid of my smartphone, it'd be quite handy to know the time. I think I'm in Japan. I'm going to buy a Casio made in Japan, the world's most reliable watch. If I'm going to buy a watch that actually works, I'll buy it then in Japan. And I did, this one. Now, I made sure it was rubber rather than metal because I think part of the problem with my electromagnetic being, that's why I live off-grid, is that anything electronic just dies around me. So I'm better that way, I'm less dangerous that way. So I bought one that was mainly rubber. Obviously the internal components are going to have some heavy metals, rare earth minerals, it's a lithium battery, and it's also that watch face is a solar panel. And they reckon it will last 30 years before the battery needs changing. I just leave it in the sun, it recharges. I think that's really clever. It was quite expensive for me. It's got a barometer, it's got a compass, it's got an altimeter. It's really quite funky. And it works, it hasn't broken. So I seem to have gotten away with it. So now, I'm on a roll. I'm thinking about, because I've driven for over a year, because cars break, and I finally gave up on them, and now I just take buses and Ubers, and I've got an electric bike which I charge off the solar panels, and that seems to work fine. But I thought I was on a roll, and just recently I was at a car boot sale for our American friends. It's like a thrift sale. In Japan they always have these lovely ones on parks where they play music. It's very collegiate and people swap things. It's more of a swap culture in Japan, which I respect. But in England we have these things, car boot sales, where people get rid of their old tut, and you know, one man's treasure, one man's rubbish is another man's treasure. And I was at one of these things and I saw a Casio, because now I'm a Casio fan, of course, because it's the only bloody watch that's ever worked for me. And I see one from 1982. And this is a bit of a legendary watch. It's the watch that happened with Al-Qaeda. So in 1982, the CIA funded the Mujahideen against the Russians fighting in Afghanistan. And the CIA sent a very large sum of money at that time to Osama bin Laden to fund Mujahideen against the Soviets. And a very clever thing that Osama bin Laden, who history will record as a very good man, he went out, he saw the light, he saw the future, and he took all this CIA largesse, all this large sum of money, and the first thing he did was go out and buy 2,500 Casio watches, just come out. Digital watches were the cutting edge technology. And he bought 2,500 of these things from Casio, directly, I believe, or through an intermediary. And he gave them to all of his freedom fighters. And it was a game changer, because these guys, he could recruit guys just on the watch, because this was the biggest technology. It's like an iPhone. Like a cutting edge iPhone at the time. These guys were go herders, and all of a sudden you can have this thing, which is, you know, really good. It's a digital watch. If you've been relying on the sun for your timing, this is much better. But what crucially it happened, it's like when they had an ambush, everyone had turned up at the ambush at the exact same time. And what was also good about these watches is that they had really quite clear plus and minus things, and with the alarm function they could be used as a timer for improvised explosive devices. It was a game changer, and actually probably played a large role in the Russians exiting Afghanistan, never getting to a land war in Europe. But what happened? All of these freedom fighters had this watch, and eventually the CIA worked out that every time they arrested these guys, they all seemed to have the same watch. So much so that having that watch as you tried to pass through US customs would get you imprisoned and thrown in Guantanamo. It became known as the terrorist watch. Absolutely legendary, from 1982, and is a bit of a holy grail for us geeks. And I was at a car boot sale recently, and I saw one, and the guy had a lot of junk on his stall, and he had one of these watches. And how much you got on that? Does it work? He says, oh yeah, it works. I said, how much you got on it? He said, £10. Now, this is the first for me. I didn't even haggle. I just said, there you go, gave him £10. It's world renowned as the terrorist watch. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not violent. Anyone who knows me, I'm a decoy. I just take the intelligence services and they spend a lot of time surveilling me, and I don't actually do anything. I'm just a decoy. I'm like a rubber duck, maybe. And here it is. I don't know if you can see that. Still working, 1982 till 2025. It's not on the original battery. It's still working. And I wear it because I like to wear two watches. It's a philosophical joke. A man who has a watch knows the time. A man who has two is never sure. So it makes me smile. And it also means on my next arrest, because my last arrest was only 5 or 6 police officers. The one before that was 48. They brought a helicopter, a drone, and 8 armed response who put red dots on my head in the siege of Longhart Wood. So on my next arrest, because I'm sure it's just around the corner for something or other, because in modern day Britain all you have to do is speak against the government with hurty words and you'll be locked up forever, despite the fact the British police solve only about 2% of violent crime, including rapes. But they can come and take me up, throw me in jail for hurty words, and they've already told me if they put me in jail they'll have me killed. Good luck with that one. Special Brigade 77, SO 13, MI6 and MI5, because you've tried to kill me 7 times, but I and my father are in cahoots, and he has told me very clearly that no weapon against me shall prosper, and it just keeps backfiring on them. The more they attack me, the more it hurts them, so we'll see. But on my next arrest, I'll get booked in with the terrorist watch. Now, I could tell you about my presence. I could tell you what is leaked elsewhere, but it'll all come out in the wash. And I can't stop smiling. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all soon.